Hey there, wine fans. It's WineShark with you here again today to talk about another wine basics video. Today we're going to discuss my opinions on wine ratings. So what you're going to learn about in this video is my opinion on wine rating systems and what are the pros and cons of common wine rating systems that you might see in magazines, online, or applications that you might use in your phone or computer. So to begin with, I want to say that this is an opinion piece. Your mileage may vary, but I've developed this over years in the wine industry, and it's a combination of both my opinion as a sommelier and my opinion as a consumer. So there you go. It's an op-ed. So the basic concept of wine ratings is either one of two things. Either they are professional critics or experts that are in the field and provide their opinions for a given portfolio of wine. These are places like WineSpector, Wine Enthusiast, Wine.com, etc. And you also have specific individuals that you might see that rate wine. I guess like James Suckling or the very famous Robert Parker. In fact, Robert Parker popularized the 100-point Parker scale and has become kind of the go-to standard when it comes to professional wine rating systems. Here in the information age, though, we've got a lot more consumer wine ratings coming up now. And so places like Wine.com also has a consumer wine section. Apps like Vivino, etc., allow users to input their own personal ratings and notes about their wines and the things that they try. So they are both predicated on an idea of being able to form an opinion about a wine. So let's talk about the positives of that. In theory, wine ratings allow you to quickly gauge a wine's quality with the assumption that you either agree or accept the user's opinion. Okay, so whoever was that reviewer was, you are assuming that their tastes are similar to yours. There are some aspects of wine that are 100% objective. Whether a wine is flawed or not, or has certain types of features, let's say it's alcohol by volume, it's total tartaric acidity, it's pH. These are indisputable facts. Whether a wine is flawed in the ways things like oxidization or another flaw, like say light strike or whether it's got Brettanomyces in it. These are all various degrees of good or bad depending on the style of wine you have. So again, you can see where the problem starts to lie in that we very quickly get out of facts and start to get into subjective opinion. Experts compared to the crowd ratings are much fewer in number. So in theory, you can find somebody you trust. So somebody like Robert Parker or James Suckling are professional, make a living as being professional wine opinion people. These opinion makers can have a large effect on the way that wineries choose to make their styles of wine. In fact, you may hear the thing called the Parker effect, where wineries started chasing his particular palate, and it had an effect and an impact on the way wine was styled, for better or for worse, depending on which side of the spectrum you fall on. Crowd sources, of course, largely rely on large numbers of untrained or unknown opinions. So the idea that many people make this right is a scientific assessment that you need to make on your own. That is, just because a lot of people like it doesn't make it match your palate, doesn't make it really good. So that's the only positive that I've got is speed. But the list of negatives and challenges are kind of larger. In the sense that it's the first things first, the scale isn't what you think it is. Here in the U.S., when we think about the 100-point scale, we generally think about things like grades. We know that, for instance, getting the letter grades A, B, C, D, E, F roughly translates to different percentages on the percent scale. A 10% bump per letter. Meaning that getting a bottom level or a barely passing grade, getting a D, is a 60% or more. Well, guess what? The Robert Parker scale is not that same thing. So what you think might be good, in fact, actually barely above average, only begins at 80 points on the Parker scale. Okay? I'll list the actual Parker scale, I'll list a link to it in the description below, but understand that you need to be to get very good, you hit 89. So all the action happens between 80 and 89, and if not then, in the 90 points and above category. Okay? This kind of reminds me of a stereotypical hover parent's attitude about a third grader's math scores. Nothing is good enough. You must get better. Well, if you can't get an A, why did you not get an A? It's really just a skewed scale. I mean, why bother having an unacceptable scale that doesn't match where it starts at 50? That's just odd to me. So the other problem is it's a false ceiling, right? Where are the low-rated wines? Basically, you rarely, if at all, ever see anything rated below 80 points because, according to Parker's scale, that is basically only an average wine that is soundly made. In some other scales, you might even find that it means it's a wine that's slightly flawed. So you're not seeing those put up in stores ever. Do we think that those wines are being made and then just never being sold because they got rated? I doubt that. I don't think that wineries are making a bunch of wine that doesn't make it to market simply because a critic says, oh, this was not good wine. Okay. The other point is those types of deficiencies or flaws are usually a signal to the winemaker that they shouldn't put that wine out there for risk of course, their own market share. Okay. Limitations of access are another problem. There's a lot of wine out there and only a few professional wine critics. There's a lot more unrated wine than there is rated wine. And so if you're only sticking to rated wines, you're missing a huge potential opportunity for wines that never saw a critic's palate. The other thing is that there are very difficult comparisons when it comes to wine. There's a lot of nuance that goes into things. And regional or style choices are very much boundaries. You know, does this Chardonnay taste appropriate for a Chablis, or is it a Northern California style? Does this Merlot taste like a Bordeaux style or a South African version thereof? The way that people make their wines in different ways is not part of that rating scale. And even the very brief, short descriptions that are included with wine ratings are not enough to really, truly discuss the nuance of whether they're on or off style. Okay, so last, and price is also another thing that factors into that. Of course, high-priced wines and factor into that comparison compared to lower-priced wines. And so you're definitely going to see a trend towards wines that are necessarily higher priced always correlating to higher ratings. Well, there is a get what you pay for mantra there, but it's not quite a linear scale, and it certainly isn't as simple as a 100-point scale where the only top 20% matters. Okay, so last but not least, the ratings are marketing tools. They are designed to get you to purchase specific wines, and sometimes the tail wags the dog, as we talked about before with the Robert Parker effect. It's not necessarily always in your best interest. So what's my take on it? The WineShark take is that following scores is the easy, ignorant path. It basically takes the responsibility away from you. It relinquishes your responsibility as a consumer and says, I don't want to form an opinion. I'm going to trust somebody else's. Now, I can understand when you're first getting into wine that you may not know what you're looking for, but though following down the dotted path of ratings or getting trapped into the rating cycle is a way that you're not going to expose yourself to some of the best wines that you're potentially out there. Second, they tend to confine you to the few specific styles that wineries produce to get those ratings, and that's not a good thing. I don't think that there should be that many strong opinion makers in the way that the world of wine works. So, don't be industry driven, be merit driven, and skip the scores. Learn by drinking yourself. Explore and experiment with different places, different grapes. If you find a winemaker whose style you like, drink everything you can by that winemaker. Analogies, as you guys know I love, are classic in this way. I mean, if you like a band and you like an album that they produced or even a song they produced, go listen to every other song they make. You're probably going to find some excellent music that you like in a similar fashion. Same thing works in the world of the art of wine. So, free your mind and your glass will follow. That is our theme, as you all know. So, thank you guys very much for your viewership. I hope you learned something today. Tell us in the comments below how you've had success with wine ratings or how you've been let down by them. If you like what we're doing here, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell. Share with a wine-loving friend. If you really like what we're doing, support us over on Patreon and help us continue to make cool wine videos that help share wine for the common person. So, hope to see you here again. Until next time, cheers, and I'm your WineShark.